The Trump administration has announced it plans to cut as many as 83,000 jobs at the Department of Veteran Affairs. This comes as a shutdown looms if Congress cannot come to a budget agreement. Joining us now to talk about both of those issues is CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarlane. Scott, thanks for being here. Good to see you again.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's talk about the status of the cuts at the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Large-scale and potentially short-term cuts. A memo obtained by CBS News indicates they're not just cutting a few jobs, but as many as 80,000 jobs nationwide from a department that has roughly 400,000 across the country. That's a big cut, and it could have a big impact on veterans. The Veterans Affairs Secretary, Doug Collins, has said this will not impact what veterans experience if they show up at a clinic, they show up at a medical center, or seek to get one of their veterans' benefits payments. And Elon Musk was pressed about this by Republicans last night during a meeting on Capitol Hill, and he also said this will not impact services. But there are concerns, to put it mildly, that you cut that many people from any agency, you run the risk of extending wait times, of impacting the quality of the services, the cleanliness of the facilities, the ability to handle the pretty crushing patient load nationwide. I'll tell you this, if it does have an impact on veteran services, that's a problem not just for veterans, that is a political problem too.
And here in Oklahoma, we have multiple VA facilities. One of them actually is under construction right now. It's going to be named after former Oklahoma Senator Jim Inhofe. Are any of those facilities in danger, maybe even this one that's under construction?
No, it's a real good question. And of course, not just are there medical centers in Oklahoma, but there are those dozens and dozens of little satellite clinics which patients use for things like eye exams or for more immediate needs. Yes, if you start cutting back personnel, you run the risk of slowing down or at least altering major construction plans. We've seen that in the past. But what's more, the critics of the agency say the agency uses money it shouldn't and does things that don't directly help patients. One of the things they've criticized is how some other medical centers across the country, including in Denver, were constructed, that too much money was spent on things that weren't focused on patients. That may be a mandate in the Inhofe Center that they make sure this new development, this expansion and construction is patient-focused, not just for aesthetics.
All right, Scott, let's switch gears now. Let's talk about this shutdown. I know the other day President Trump said he wants to avoid it. He wants to make a deal. So what needs to be done to avoid a government shutdown? How likely is it that a compromise will be reached on it?
Well, a compromise is going to have to be reached by next Friday, or there'll be a government shutdown across America. There's been some Chicken Little on this issue recently, people saying it's possible, but it doesn't quite seem to happen. There's an elevated concern this time because Democratic votes will be needed to get the government funded, at least some number of them. And over the past few weeks, they have destroyed the bridges between Republicans and Democrats here in Washington. You saw it at the president's address to Congress Tuesday night. They'll have to rebuild those bridges and do it quickly, or else a shutdown is not just possible, but likely.
All right, Scott McFarlane in Washington for us. Thanks so much for your time.